Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss the pay rise that MPs are to be awarded next year. My thoughts on MPs' pay rises in general, which I'm not usually against, I have to say, but how the particular circumstances this time mean that it is completely unacceptable and that they should act to cancel it on this occasion. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, first up, I think I need to make a couple of points just so that everyone is clear what it is about MPs' pay awards and my thoughts in particular. So, that's particularly relevant to this. The first is that it's not a pay award that MPs have given themselves. They used to do that. That doesn't happen now. The pay awards are determined independently. You know, the announced pay rise is not down to MPs saying, do you know what, we deserve a pay rise, I think. Should we give ourselves a 4% pay rise? Yeah, sure, why not? So from that point of view, nothing has yet happened that is the fault of MPs, and they could, in theory, act against it. They won't. That being said, Parliament, like I said, is the power in the land, and it could push through a bill, if it wanted to cancel the pay award on this occasion, just to overrule it just this once. The other thing is that in determining whether a pay award is justified or not, because some people may think, well, I think that MP works really hard and that one does not. We have to bear in mind what it is the role of an MP. It's to represent the interests of their constituents and their country. An MP, of course, also has an obligation to the party that got them elected, but that's not the job of an MP. It's more of a constraint that some take more seriously than others. So you serve the constituency, you serve the country. Now, it has to be said that some MPs do absolutely wonderful work promoting very good causes, and some even make a difference doing so. They actually achieve something. Some don't. Some are just basically a talking shop. But, you know, the heart's in the right place. Some of them actually achieve something. But no matter how much you approve of a particular cause like that, that's charitable work that any of us could do. Yes, they're an MP. They get to shine more of a spotlight on it, and that's absolutely fine. But that's not their work as an MP. That's not it. An MP's work is judged purely in terms of the tangible benefits to their constituents and to their country. Anything else is their hobby horse, which they are entitled to within reason, as long as it's not bunging public money into private hands. And I've got no problem with the hobby horse, and I indeed actively support some of them, but that's not what they're paid for. So in terms of my objection to the pay increase this time, I want to make it clear that my reasons are not necessarily the same as some others, because whenever there's a pay increase announced for MPs, lots of people go, oh, they shouldn't have that. They shouldn't have that while other workers are not getting enough. Some rail against MPs' wage increases just because they're not happy with the way those MPs behave. Now, I've never done that, and I hope I never will, because even in the deepest, darkest depths of the most depraved Conservative government, essentially the one we've got now, I accept that there is a difference between MPs not pursuing the policies that I would like them to, that's a political difference of opinion, and MPs just not doing their jobs. You know, so you do get some valid objections when MPs get an above inflation pay rise, which is what this is going to be, and some other public sector workers do not. And that, you know, like that's the case here. The group that decides on the pay rise have said that they're going to keep it in line with public sector pay increases. So that means MPs are only going to get a pay award increase in line with the average increase in the public sector. Now that sounds very fair. I haven't got a problem with that. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't have an issue with that, even though I know that there are some public sector workers that are not getting that pay increase. It's an average. But on this occasion, there's a few things. For example, lots of public sector workers are losing their jobs. Unemployment is mounting. From that point of view, is it really right that MPs whose jobs are guaranteed for a few more years at least and get nearly treble the national wage as it is, you know, and they get to keep their jobs no matter how badly they mess up, as long as they don't land themselves in prison? Is it really right that they give themselves a pay rise when they're inflicting upon hundreds of thousands of others a 100% pay cut? But my objection is a little different. That's valid, but that's not my objection. I look at it like this. So in the spring, MPs voted the government emergency powers to allow Boris Johnson and his pirate crew to handle the COVID pandemic quickly and efficiently without getting bogged down in parliamentary procedure. However, this is not what Johnson has done with those powers. He's used them to fleece the country and make the emergency by far the worst in the developed world. He cannot claim to be using the powers to take swift action. For example, at the end of last week, it became clear that the government and their privately run test and trace programs have failed spectacularly. They have lost control. Tighter restrictions are now the only thing that can make a difference. Test and trace has been completely outstripped. Johnson will not be announcing that until later today. This is days later. Days after he said he's going to need to do something, that he's actually going to do it. Now, 4 days delay means that the number of cases will have increased by 10%. So if you look at the figures over the last 4 days, the number of cases has increased in that 4 days delay by over 10%. Now, I'll grant you that MPs have been a little hamstrung in this area and what they can do about it, because they had the opportunity the week before last to remove those emergency powers from the government. But it was deemed by most MPs to do more political harm than good to do so. They know the government are abusing them, but there's more political harm in removing the powers altogether. They tried to amend them, they couldn't do that. But it nonetheless means that MPs are not engaged in the greatest crisis of their political lives. They are not actually doing their jobs as MPs. But it doesn't stop there. Boris Johnson also wants to sign a trade deal with the US, which I'll be talking about with something else a bit later. This is, of course, not in the interest of the country. Yeah, a US trade deal is in the interest of the country, but not the specific US trade deal that is being negotiated. And it will receive strong public objections if the details become known. As such, Boris Johnson encouraged his MPs to vote him through powers to conduct all trade talks behind closed doors with no public updates on the details at all. In fact, Parliament don't even get a vote on the US trade deal until it's been signed. You what? What? They voted it through, though. They went along with it. They went, yeah, sure, why not? So MPs voted away their right to involve themselves in trade talks. In fact, not just their right, but their duty. So given that we are weeks away from pissing away almost all of our favourable trading arrangements around the world, not just with the EU, I'd have thought trade would be one of the very top issues for the country. In fact, I would say that the top 3 issues for the UK right now are the climate emergency, the coronavirus pandemic, and international trade. Also, intranational trade, I suppose, given the friction that Johnson is placing inside of the UK, you know, borders between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, borders around Kent, that sort of thing, you know, with Brexit. And MPs have actively voted to remove themselves from the decision-making processes of 2 of those 3 most important issues. It's not even like they're doing very much on the climate emergency to make up for it. They always, you know, they voted themselves a summer recess. They always do that. That's sort of generally okay. Summer recess, it means you get some holiday, but also you get to spend time with your constituents. Very important. But they voted themselves a summer recess this year when we're in the middle of an emergency. And it's not like they could get out and about in their constituencies anyway. They've also voted themselves a longer recess for the end of this month. Now, granted, they haven't risen for the party conference season, so I'd not normally object to a slightly longer recess in October. But again, October is a crucial month for Brexit and for COVID. It's an emergency on both fronts, and they should not be going on even a normal recess, let alone a longer one. So MPs have actively voted on no fewer than 5 occasions to give themselves less work. Twice on a recess they should not be taken, twice on handling over COVID, and once on passing up the chance to scrutinise trade talks. Under no circumstances should anyone paid for out of the public purse get a pay increase when they are doing much less work than normal. If it were all hands to the pump with Brexit and COVID, I wouldn't be arguing against this at all. You know, even if they were pursuing a Brexit that I thought was very damaging and a COVID response I thought was very damaging, if MPs were at least doing their work, even though it's work in the wrong direction from my point of view, wouldn't have an issue with it, because MPs would be putting their shifts in. I would accept it as a difference of political opinion. But they are objectively not doing their jobs. They've actively voted to do less work, to have less of a say for their constituents and for their country. So for that reason, they should not be getting this pay increase. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.